A lot of teachers are getting burned out now. They're thinking about quitting. They are quitting. If you're one of those teachers, hear me out. I think it might be because you're a great teacher. And if you are, you have so much to offer, students and education. And so here I want to talk about what I think makes a great teacher. And I know where I'm falling down and where I want to improve. And that's one of the greatest things about teaching and the worst thing. You can always do something more. You can always do something better. I love that about it, but it means it's forever stressful. I don't know about you, but I haven't had a teacher evaluation in 10 years. It's one of the great things about my school. They give us complete autonomy. They say just go for it. I would love some more feedback. I'd love to have some people come in my classroom. I suppose I could figure that out for myself if I wanted to. I know other schools have evaluations all the time, and there's massive big long frameworks for how to evaluate a teacher. But I think it comes down to two simple qualities. Two qualities that all great teachers share. Number one, you care about the students. Number two, you care about getting better as a teacher. And I think that's where the burnout happens. If we care about our students, if we really care, that's where we can invest too much emotional energy or a lot of emotional energy and effort. And it can be really stressful, right? It can really burn us out. And the other one about always caring about getting better. I know for myself, the most stressful times of teaching are when I know I'm not doing a good job, or when I'm chasing my tail. I walk out of a lesson or thinking, that was dreadful, I was so unprepared, or I go into a lesson being unprepared. I'm very fortunate I haven't had that feeling for a long time, ever since I went part-time teaching, because I knew I couldn't do all the things I wanted to do being a full-time teacher. And I feel sorry for full-time teachers. I'm not gloating because I work really hard for full-time teachers to try to give you guys some more time. If anyone uses my resources and they find it saves you some time, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, because sometimes I feel like I know I'm super privileged in that I can just work part-time and I have the time to go into a class knowing I've got the materials. But anyway, the other two qualities. You care about your students, you care about getting better. If we just think about that first one, right? Caring about students. What else could be more important? I mean, that's why schools exist. I remember being a high school student and standing at the reception office and there was like 8 people walking around and I was just standing there waiting and no one served me. And I had this thought as a 17-year-old, all of this is for us, but you wouldn't think it right now. And maybe that was just me being, a typical obsessed, focused, selfish teenager, right? Thinking the world should be serving me on a platter. But it was just the way I kind of thought about school at that time. It's also why I was really disillusioned at university. It's an academic institution that has no interest in education. You'd have these professors would stand up there and lecture. They didn't give a shit if I learned it or not, or even who I was. Now, I'm not blaming them, by the way. That's more part of the structure of universities and how they work. But I know if you're a professor and you're lecturing, but you don't care if the people learn in your classes, they even learn the content that you're trying to teach them. If you don't think that what you're trying to teach is important, you're just going through the motions, then you're not a great teacher, right? And so that for me as well is the role of content in teaching. Like I'm trying to create units that I really want my students to learn because I think they can be helpful, right? The latest one on stress, I want them to know where it comes from, but more importantly, that it can be a good thing, and here's how to cope with stress. I really want to make a unit called How to Be a Millionaire on financial literacy because I think that's a really important way that we can figure out these inequalities in wealth around the world. It's financial literacy is really important. But I think it's very valuable. There's loads of things that these units that I want to teach because I want the students to know it. That's more like on a content level, but on an individual level as well. This is why I might be a terrible teacher, because I try, but I can be far better at, and I'm not always great at developing relationships. Some students that I tutor and I work with on a one-to-one basis or I coach, if I see them a lot outside a classroom, I know I can develop a rapport and a relationship, but I'm not good at doing it with every student in the classroom. And I am really I'm not self-aware enough to realize that I'm quite an imposing, intimidating figure for a lot of my students. I feel like I'm a big softie, but a lot of my students are scared of me. And that's something that I've got to work on, right? And I read an article the other day about how it could be a gender thing, that females strike better relationships with other female teachers. And that to me makes perfect sense. So there's something there in my approach to teaching that I have to figure out. I was heartbroken a few years ago when I surveyed my students, I just gave out a general teacher evaluation survey. And one of the questions was, my teacher cares about me, and it was 1 to 4, disagree, agree, whatever. And I had quite a low average on that. On all the others, I had pretty high averages, but that one struck me as being, wait, what? And I realized that my students didn't realize that I cared about them, because I cared about them in ways that they didn't see. And also, I probably didn't show them that I cared about them. And they were right that actually I cared about them as a class, but on an individual level, did I really take the time and effort to do something with them individually or to help them out in an individual manner? Probably not. And I know that's where I need to get better. That brings me to my second point, right? Good teachers, great teachers, I think, this is just me, care about students, but care about getting better. The best thing about teaching is it can always be done better. The worst thing about teaching is it can always be done better. I know that all these ideas that I'm sharing about teaching now, probably in 10 years' time, I'm going to completely disagree with them. I'm probably going to be really super embarrassed by these videos that I'm making and these ideas that I'm spurging out about teaching. In 10 years' time, I'm cool with that, because it's this idea today that's going to get me to my next one tomorrow. I'm okay with that, but I'm constantly trying to get better. It's exactly why I started this channel. I want to share some ideas. Here's things I think might help you out, but also I want to get some ideas back. And I want to build a network of other teacher geeks that we can all share these ideas from, because I don't really like surfing the internet for this stuff. And also, I haven't ever found a good YouTube channel or website which is just 100% like activities. And I realize there's no activities here. This is just me talking. So maybe I'm part of the problem. But I just want to go, right, here's this activity. Here's how I can do it. I just want the stuff that's going to make my classroom better. I don't know about you, but I've also worked with lots of colleagues who just seem to not really be that interested in getting better. And that's okay. That used to stress me out in my younger days, but now I let bygones be bygones. And the day that I closed my door and stopped worrying about what other people were doing and what our admin were doing, and I just focused on my students and myself and how do I get better and how do I do more for them, my passion for teaching just took off and I've loved it. And that's when I really became a teacher geek. When I just stopped trying to change everyone else and just focused on myself. What I try to do now is I try to steer towards colleagues who share those same values, right? Who really care about students, and you can tell that. And also they care about getting better. I don't really want to engage on a professional level with colleagues who tend to be really negative and complain a lot and just try to find the fault and don't really ever seem to be that interested in talking about teaching or getting new ideas. I can definitely talk with everyone on a personal level and be friendly. That's fine, and I can separate the two. But when it comes to just talking about teaching, I just find that there are some teachers that I really click with who we can, like, if I came to them and said, hey, I've got this cool idea, they would be interested in hearing it. And I hope they would know as well that if they had tried something in their classroom, like, I would want to hear about it as well. They're the colleagues that I just try to steer towards. And so I use this framework of those two things, even just how I think about my colleagues, right? Care about students, care about getting better. But generally, I just worry about what I'm doing. Exactly why I started this channel, because I can talk to a camera by myself in this little wee office, because I know out there's a world of people that are the same, but they're just not in my immediate world right now. That's it. Care about the students, care about getting better. Simple evaluation framework. If you're an administrator and you're watching this video and you've watched it till this part, I would love to hear your thoughts on how would you go about if you were doing evaluations of your staff. Could you use that framework? Is it helpful? Any other thoughts you want to add? Love to hear them. Thanks.